I stumbled upon Mode designs not too long after getting into mechanical keyboards. Back then, in the midst of the pandemic, I, just like many others, was looking to spice up my home office, and in one of my many Google searches, the 80, Mode's first mechanical keyboard, was among the results. Since then, Mode has released plenty of boards, each one more tantalizing than the other, and every time they show up with a new design, my fingertips tingle with excitement while my wallet trembles in fear, but I never pulled the trigger. Not until now, when I finally decided the Mode Tempo was the one, an HHKB board that was released in late 2023 and has since been sold in stock on Mode's website using their brilliant Visual Configurator. But in this video, I don't want to focus on the tempo. I want to talk about Mode designs itself, because I always liked how they approach designing, selling, and marketing their custom keyboards. I will, however, be using my purchasing experience and the tempo as a reference point, including the $80 build service, which I've actually paid for. So if you're interested in a weird deep dive about a company rather than the board itself, strap in for a solid 15 minutes of random opinions. Before we start with my ramblings, I want to point out that even though an entire video dedicated to a company seems like a sponsored thing, it is not. Everything that I own from Mode was purchased with my own money, and apart from a mail asking for my build preferences, I had no contact with them. I also want to point out that in regard to some of the facts about Mode, I only know what I read online, so please be aware that not everything that I say may in fact be accurate. With these heavy disclaimers out of the way, let's start. Mode Designs was founded in Boston, Massachusetts in 2020 by Mr. Jacob Stewart and Brad Mello. Both also have big names on their CVs, as they can list such giants as Google, Apple, and Tesla as their former employers. Not that those big tech companies are a guarantee for success though, their strives likely stem from more personal reasons and love for custom keyboards, as stated by Jacob in an introductory post about Mode back in November of 2020. Their goal was to offer great keyboards with an emphasis on in-stock options as well as a positive buying and owning experience. 4 years later, I would say they certainly achieved that, although I can't talk much about a long-term owning experience just yet, as I've had mine for just about 3 weeks. But in terms of their in-stock philosophy and especially their buying experience, I'd say that they stand alone, and it contributes a lot to what I would call the Mode experience. It starts with their arguably industry-leading Visual Configurator, something I wish every shop would offer, although I understand that this isn't an easy feat to achieve, nor is it possible in most cases. You see, normally in the custom space, you have a designer or a company which then seeks out vendors that handle all the orders, payment, and shipping of the boards to the individual customers. Usually those vendors are also split up geographically to bring the board to as many people as possible within their region, and they all have their own website and storefronts, which is where things get a little complicated. I don't know exactly what the implications are, but apart from the fact that keyboards can be so different, I assume that it is just very expensive to create a generalized configurator like the one that Mode offers. Add to that the cost of maintaining and eventually expanding said configurator whenever new options are being added, and we end up with an unsolvable problem, at least in the current state. This leads to some creative problem solving on the vendor side. For example, during one particular group buy, I once had to purchase the board without any options first. I then had to go back and make a second order in which I needed to select all of my options like the layout and the plate material. Weirdly enough, all of these options were priced at $1, which I assume was due to the fact that their shop backend couldn't handle free products. In the end, everything went fine, but it was all a bit confusing, and for newcomers, something like this can be very off-putting, especially if you're not as fluent in online interfaces or don't understand the intricacies of mechanical keyboards and all of their parts. However, if you are the sole perpetrator of said products, if you handle everything from manufacturing, ordering to shipping and payment, well, then you have total control and you can offer a much better custom experience, which is exactly what Mode is doing. They're not the only ones though. Keebwerk does something similar, and there might be more, but Mode goes a little further than anyone else. Apart from the basic configurations such as picking the case color, accents, and layout, you can also choose to add any of Mode's in-house designed switches, keycaps, and stabilizers. It's not perfect though. The constantly updating visuals are great to see how your build might turn out, albeit with a bit of a delay sometimes, and I wish there was a way to magnify the image. I really wanted to take a closer look to help me navigate past my choice fallacy. Even more amazing would have been a 3D model. Now, that would push it beyond any competition. You'll also get a build code that lets you share either your or other people's configurations. This is a brilliant marketing stunt if you ask me. It's a tantalizing way to get people's attention, especially if you market the setups of known enthusiasts. But I wish the build code would do just a little more and also included keycaps, switches and stabilizers, as well as foam options. I can understand why it doesn't though. Some of these parts are usually ordered separately and depend even more on one's personal preference, and even though you might want your board to look like someone else's, you don't necessarily want their choice in switches and stabs. Having to select the keycaps every time I went back was a bit annoying, but I might be the only idiot doing this. I'm also a little conflicted about charging extra for the foam kit. Often this is included these days, however I do like the fact that you only get it if you want it, avoiding any unnecessary waste. They also have handy video guides explaining many of the options, which can be very helpful if you're new to mechanical keyboards. But there's a little bug that if the video still plays when you close the window, it'll continue to do so, and if you do it with all of them, well, you got yourself a mode remix. Overall though, it's fantastic. It's a lot of fun to just play around with and to see what combinations you might like. Makes me wish there was a website that contained all of the keyboard 3D models and keycaps that were ever made. Having those in a giant centralized database for all of the world to play around with would be a dream come true. Imagine adding historical ports and slapping spicy keycaps on there for wishful creations, or vice versa. Juicy. Anyway, back to mode. There are a few more options you can pick during your manic shopping sessions. For example, Mode also makes a matching artisan for at least 3 out of their 4 in-house keycap sets, and they also sell fine art prints, which I think it is an interesting idea. With all of this and their desk mats, you can create an environment fully themed around your keyboard, truly making it the centerpiece. Being able to provide all of this in-house isn't just for our convenience sake though. I assume it does save them cost in cutting out any middlemen. It also makes it very easy for newcomers, but that's not the only area where Mode does things just a little different. Good communication is key to success in many areas of life, whether that be talking truth about that project you're working on in the office, or coming clean to your partner that it was indeed you who ate all the chocolate bars and not the neighbor's cat. The same goes for keyboard vendors. State the facts, be transparent, let us know what's actually going on, and we will understand. Hopefully. You can do this over many channels. Most will have a newsletter or Discord, which can be, depending on the popularity of the brand, range in size and activity. But what only a few have is an active YouTube channel, and I believe what nobody except Mode has is one that has this level of production quality. As somebody who attempts to create somewhat coherent videos myself, I highly respect anyone who does the same, especially if they, unlike myself, do it this well. Mode began publishing just about a year ago, with their first video being a guide on how to brew coffee, which at first glance seems a bit random, although it makes a little more sense as it was a collab between Mode and Onyx Coffee. That video and all subsequent uploads are also hosted by Mr. Chris or Christian Chakra. He's the product marketing manager at Mode Designs and also runs his own channel, which primarily focuses on coffee, which maybe explains the first video and the quality of the productions. However, uploading well-produced YouTube videos is only half of the story. Much more important is what those videos are about. Remember the part about transparency? Well, each month, Mode uploads a video on the current state of pretty much everything, from stock reminders to information about production and shipping times, as well as more details on upcoming products and launches. They also started highlighting photos from the community, which is a great way to engage with your audience and give some love back. I mean, who doesn't like to get a shout out? One must not forget though that all of these videos have an alternative motive than just to keep us happy, which is marketing. Let me give you an example. Just making a video about a new product like their recently launched stabilizers might be interesting to some, but I'd argue that video wouldn't be that successful unless you reinvent the stabilizer from the ground up. But if you create a well-produced, easy-to-follow guide on lubing stabs that just happens to showcase your new stabilizers, well, ladies and gentlemen, what we have amongst us is a perfect example of a modern ad. This will be shared, commented on and rewatched by many, including myself, regardless of whether or not I'm interested in their stabilizers. Newcomers to the hobby might even end up picking these up over others, or an entire board for that matter. This is, after all, a confident and professionally produced video that will likely translate to the assumption that the product shown in the video or the company behind it is of equal quality, which, luckily in this case, is actually true. They also did the same with their keycaps, and to prove a point here, I am telling you to go watch that video, because it's actually fascinating as they explain how those caps were produced and the iterations they had to go through. But don't forget, it's also an ad for their keycaps, so don't buy them just because of that. Or do, because they're actually really nice, and I'm not just saying that because I got brainwashed. Or maybe I am. I don't know anymore. However, I want to point out one last thing before we move on. Mode is based in the US, and my familiarity with the hobby resides within this area and Europe. I have absolutely zero clue about what is going on the other side of the planet. There might very well be more engaging, more communicative and more professional versions of this, but in a language that I do not understand or from companies that I've never even heard of. Take GeonWorks for example, they have 4-hour design streams on their channel where I assume they show how the board was designed? Not all of them have subtitles, so I'm not really sure, but it's an interesting peek through that window to get an idea of what's going on the other side. I just want to clarify that what I am saying is based on a geographically limited view and doesn't reflect the whole world. Which brings me neatly to the last part, my limited experience with mode designs itself via the actual board that I bought. As the focus of the video is more on mode itself, I won't be doing the usual deep dive on the tempo. There are however plenty of other great videos about it, which I've all linked down in the description below. But I want to, just like with the previous 2 chapters, highlight some specifics where I believe mode goes a little further than the rest. For example, the shipping times and communication. Even though I opted for the additional build service, which stated on their website can take up to 5 additional business days, it still arrived within 2. Of course, this always depends on their current workload, but it's still nice that it did. In fact, just 3 hours after I placed my order, I was contacted and asked about my Switch preferences, since I ordered both the Obscuras and Tomorrows. I thought it was interesting though that they didn't ask me about which mounting type or plate I preferred, since I also ordered 2 of those. They also didn't install the Artisan, which I didn't expect them to, but I was still curious to see what they would do with it. Let's talk about that build service for a minute though. Normally I would never do this, I enjoy putting boards together, discovering each part during the unboxing and then slowly seeing how everything becomes one is a lot of fun. But I've never seen a service like this, and since this is part of something that mode offers, I wanted to know how good it is. The results? For the most part great, but the spacebar lacked a bit of tuning. I could imagine that people who opt for this service don't have any tools or lube at home or don't want to bother with buying some, just for one board, which makes the high service fee of $80 a little hard to digest. Of course, just because I had an issue doesn't mean everyone else will have one too, but it's still worth noting that it might still need additional work. But I'd say unless you're in a real pinch time-wise, or if you've ordered 10 boards for your entire team, don't go for the build service in the first place. Putting a keyboard together is an integral part of the hobby, and as I mentioned, is a lot of fun and very easy to do, especially on a board like this. I'd argue the much more tedious part of a custom build is picking the parts, and as mode already took care of that, the rest is a cakewalk. I know lubing stabilizers can be daunting at first, but you know mode has a great video guide on how to do that, remember? They also sell lube pre-packaged in a syringe already, for just $6, so give it a go. You can't really break anything unless you dishwash your PCB after getting it greased up a little too much. The rest of the build was fine though, which brings me neatly to the hardware itself. In general, I think mode's keyboards all share a simplicity not only in design, but also in how they are put together, which I very much welcome. Take the rubber feet for example. I always hated those that used glue, and I have had press-fitted ones before, but they are all very finicky. These however, these are clever and they add to the design as well, which I really dig. Every other part of the board is equally wonderful. Each line is perfect. For example, just look how nicely the weight and the inner case match up. Most of their boards also feature at least 2 customizable pieces apart from the case itself, which is a creative way to customize the board to your liking. I opted for the copper and walnut accents with my build, which I must admit looks much better in person than on those preview renders. At the beginning I wasn't so sure about the walnut though, and primarily added it because I really wanted to get my hands on some wood. After seeing it in person though, I haven't regretted it for a second, and to get this material to fit this perfectly, it's also no easy feat. I also believe that it stemmed out of a community demand. Before that, it was introduced as a limited white oak version in a collaboration between Mode and Mod Musings. Another unique aspect of the board is the mounting system. First introduced in the Envoy, the lattice blocks have now been deployed in almost all of their boards, with the Sonnet soon getting a refresh to join the flock as well. These 3D printed blocks are proprietary to Mode, if you exclude the existing footwork of course, that uses the same system. You'll also get 4 different densities, so you can adjust the typing experience to your liking. Having the same mounting system, albeit in a slightly different variation across all of their lineup, probably also serves to reduce production cost and creates a signature feel and sound while simultaneously separating Mode from the rest of the custom keyboard space. Everyone can do standard gaskets or leaf springs, but if anyone will create something like this, it will probably be compared to Mode, if not downright being called the Mode mounting system. Once again, it is great for us, but also serves a secondary target. Alright, it's time to wrap this up. Mode seems to be doing everything right at the moment. From the easiest ordering experience to the in-stock nature, it's probably one of the best places to start or end your mechanical keyboard journey. Price-wise, I would say they land roughly in the middle of today's landscape. Sure, there are much cheaper boards around, but if we break down each part and the cost of it, it starts to look a little different. Adding the automatically applied discount if you purchase the board along with their keycaps and stabilizers, and you'll end up with a very competitive sum. For anyone living outside the US like myself, this can also be a big incentive as you'll save on multiple shipping and import fees, which can add up. However, I want to leave you with one last thought. Convenience is nice. Saving money is even nicer, but having all the options and parts in one place goes a little against what I think makes this hobby so fun, which is the challenge of finding said parts. Sometimes it can take weeks, no, months before you discover the perfect keycap set for a board or vice versa, and the feeling of finally having a match is wonderful. The same goes for the moment when everything comes together, if it works. I had builds in the past where it looked more like a pile of designer vomit than anything resembling a cool keyboard. But after overcoming that struggle and the financial ruin, you will likely get a very satisfied feeling of accomplishment, which you are most certainly also feeling right now for finishing this video. Congratulations and thank you so much for watching. I hope this didn't feel too much like an ad for Mode, which again, it is not. I just really like how they're doing things and I wanted to talk about it, which is why this video exists. But let me know in the comments what you think. Do you agree or what are your thoughts on Mode? Thank you again and see you in the next one. Bye!